We got this really interesting question from a listener about invention, like how something small, an idea, can just spiral out into consequences nobody ever planned for.
Right. And they sent us this really unusual source material to explore it. Excerpts from P.D. Ouspensky's Talks with the Devil, specifically a bit called The Inventor.
Yeah, it's pretty out there. A fictional chat between, well, a narrator and a devil. And the bits we're looking at focus on this guy, Hugh B., his inventions, and the devil's take on him and humanity.
It's definitely a unique angle. The Devil's commentary is, well, quite cynical, but gives us some surprisingly sharp observations about Hugh's life and how people reacted to his work.
Okay, so our mission here isn't just to, tell a weird story. We want to really dig into those unintended ripples, the messy reasons why people create things, and this devil's, frankly, odd perspective on it all, using Hugh's journey as our guide.
Exactly. We'll unpack the key moments, see what the devil says, and hopefully pull out some insights.
So let's start at the beginning. Who was this Hugh B. character when this whole story kicks off?
Well, according to the devil's account, we're looking back about 25 years before the main narrative. He was working in a factory drawing office in New York. He got married pretty young, around 22.
And he wasn't happy with the 9-to-5 grind, was he?
Not at all. Really dissatisfied. The mundane stuff just didn't interest him. His mind was always, like, buzzing with machines, constantly thinking about mechanics.
Right, obsessed even. Poring over catalogs, books, always imagining new designs, new ways things could work, valves, wheels, levers. You get the picture, a real inventor type.
Yeah, absolutely. And this wasn't just daydreaming. He actually had some early success. He improved a machine at the factory.
Oh, okay. So he got some recognition.
He did. Got a bonus, even a promotion to senior draftsman.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, he's working from engineer sketches. People were asking his opinion. The director saw potential.
But here's the twist, right? His reaction wasn't what you'd expect, like, hooray, I made it.
No, not really. And this is maybe a key takeaway. Sometimes early wins don't satisfy that deep ambition. They just make you hungrier for something, well, bigger, maybe something you haven't even defined yet.
So he got the bonus, the promotion, but mentally he was somewhere else.
Exactly. The devil points out that Hugh just sort of accepted it as his due. It felt trivial compared to his massive dreams. Owning a yacht, traveling the world, fame, making truly revolutionary inventions.
Wow, so the factory success was just noise.
Pretty much. Insignificant compared to these grand, maybe a bit vague ambitions he had.
So even though things were improving, practically, he got a small flat, a workshop for evenings. He was already looking way beyond that. And he marries Madge O'Neill around this time.
Yes, at 22. And their dreams seem, well, very different.
How so? What was Madge hoping for?
Well, while Hugh's thinking about changing the world with machines, Madge's ambitions were much more, let's say, grounded, materialistic maybe. Nicer clothes, a better flat, trips to the seaside, the theater, opera, that kind of thing.
So reading the gossip babies while he's reading technical manuals?
Basically, yeah. A real contrast. The devil really highlights this gap between Hugh's world-changing ideas and Madge's focus on everyday comforts and status.
And living in these separate mental worlds must have caused some friction. Hugh gets frustrated.
Absolutely. The factory work, even the better job, it drained him. It took time away from what he saw as his real work, inventing.
And he felt ripped off too, right?
Yeah, increasingly so. He'd made these valuable improvements for the factory, things that clearly helped their bottom line. But after that first bonus, nothing. He felt exploited, unrewarded. And that just fueled his resentment and made it harder to focus on his own projects.
That sense of being stuck, undervalued, it really sets the stage for what happens next, doesn't it?
It really does. There's this crucial turning point. It starts with a setback. A model he was working on fails.
And Madge probably wasn't much comfort.
The devil certainly implies she didn't really grasp his frustration. So he's already feeling down, his big dreams seem far away, and then this failure hits him hard.
Then comes this dismal, rainy morning.
Yeah, and a drinking binge. It leads him to this really stark, almost brutal moment of realization about, how harsh life seemed, how insignificant he felt.
And the devil finds this enjoyable. That's dark.
It is. The devil actually says he takes delight in that specific moment when someone thinking about suicide fully gets the finality of it. He even mentions they'd been watching Hugh before this, seeing him get close to that edge.
Wow, okay. But Hugh doesn't act on it. Instead, that despair twists into something else entirely.
Right. It morphs into this incredibly intense focus on a new invention.
Which was?
A rapid-firing revolver.
Yeah.
An automatic pistol. Suddenly, all that negative energy, all that frustration gets channeled into this one project. He's sketching, calculating, working nonstop.
And the design sounded pretty radical for the time.
Oh, definitely. 7 bullets in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Reloading in another 2. He calculated potentially 105 bullets a minute. Remember, this is way before automatic weapons were common. 7 shots that fast. That was a terrifying leap in firepower.
Even the devil was impressed.
You could say that. The devil notes the idea was worthy of praise, recognizing its true value, the sheer destructive potential, the capacity for rapid, focused violence.
And this becomes Hugh's obsession.
Completely. He quits the factory. And Madge, surprisingly perhaps, actually supports him. They move to California. He sets up his workshop and dedicates himself fully to developing this pistol.
We get some tech specs, too. It wasn't just a faster revolver.
No, it was quite advanced, flat, heavy design. The 7 bullets were in the handle, not a rotating cylinder. And the key thing was the recoil operation, using the kick from firing to automatically eject the spent casing and load the next round from the magazine.
So self-loading, that was the big innovation.
Huge, much faster firing, more power than standard revolvers. But the devil does mention Hughes struggled with some technical bits, like the extractor and the safety lock. That safety remained a weak spot, apparently.
And during all this intense inventing, the devil makes a strange comment about his own lack of interest in Hugh's inner life.
Yeah, he explicitly says there was absolutely nothing of interest for him in Hughes' thoughts or feelings then. His reasoning is that his field is limited by the emotions involved. Meaning Hugh was just focused on the mechanics. There wasn't any big criminal emotion driving him. Just those, as the devil puts it, insipid and sickening dreams of love and happiness with Madge.
So the potential chaos of the invention interested the devil, but not Hugh's personal reasons at that point.
Seems so. The destructive capability was the draw, not Hugh's mundane hopes.
Okay, let's jump ahead. Hugh partners with someone named Jones to market and manufacture the pistol. How does that go at first?
Not great, actually. Sales were slow. Even with the factory setup, the pistol was expensive and people weren't really biting. They needed publicity, big, expensive publicity. Gun shops had them, but folks mostly stuck with the old-style revolvers they knew.
Shows how unpredictable adoption can be. You need more than just the tech.
Definitely. And this is where things take a wild turn. His invention gets famous, but not because of clever marketing. It's because of a completely unrelated scandal in Paris.
Ah, Marion Gray, the opera singer.
Exactly. The devil paints this picture of her taking Europe by storm. Amazing voice, but also constant drama. Duels, suicides, men falling at her feet. Paris was buzzing about her.
And her Paris debut was eventful.
Understatement. A young dragoon officer shot himself in the opera house foyer on her opening night. She kept singing, but the press went wild. Suddenly, her private life was the big story.
Then there's Miss Stockton, an American writer.
Described as one of Marion's lovers, intensely jealous, prone to violent outbursts when drinking.
And Lord Tilbury.
Another lover, wealthy Englishman, apparently spent a fortune on Marion and hated Miss Stockton. Plus, there was a young, unstable Swedish diplomat in the mix, known for holding seances. A real powder keg.
And it explodes at one of these seances, with Hugh's pistol playing a starring role.
A truly gruesome scene, as the devil tells it. Miss Stockton, drunk and furious, crashes the seance, confronts Marion, Tilbury, the diplomat, and some poor poet who was just there. She pulls out Hugh's automatic pistol.
Oh, yo.
Shoots Tilbury point blank, then the diplomat, then pumps 3 bullets into Marion, wounds the poet, and uses the last shot on herself.
Jeez. 7 shots. 4 dead.
Exactly. The next day's headlines screamed, 4 corpses, 7 shots. And suddenly this new American automatic pistol was front and center of the whole lurid story.
And the press coverage of Hugh, the inventor.
Total chaos. Some papers showed a picture of a stern-looking older guy, called him a Yankee inventor. Others used the same caption with a picture of some American philanthropist. Nobody really knew who he was initially.
But the connection was made. American invention, bloody Parisian crime scene.
Right. The news went global. And despite the confusion about him, his pistol became infamous. It was bizarrely terrible publicity that worked like gangbusters.
So sales took off.
Exploded. Overnight, gun shops everywhere sold out. Orders poured into the automatic firearm company. They were totally overwhelmed. And Hugh, kind of strangely, became this momentary pride of America.
But his mind was still elsewhere, even with all this success.
Yeah, mainly on Madge. He seemed almost detached from the business boom. His priority was getting back to her in Los Angeles.
But his partner, Jones, saw the opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Jones brought in a financial genius. They quickly organized a big share issue, got bank loans, and massively ramped up production to meet the insane demand.
And the demand kept growing, even with governments getting nervous.
Yep. Spain tried to ban imports after a revolution in Barcelona where the pistols were used, but orders just kept flooding in from other places. Hugh finally gets to LA to see Madge.
How did that reunion go? Was it the happy ending he imagined?
Not quite. Initially, Madge was reserved, maybe a bit wary of him still. But Hugh found the key. Shopping. Lavish, extravagant shopping. Flowers, diamonds, hats, chocolates. He bought everything in sight, and it worked. Her reserve melted. They ended up having this luxurious second honeymoon.
But the dark side of his invention couldn't be ignored forever.
No. News reached him about a brutal train robbery near San Diego. Many people killed, and his automatic pistols were the weapons used.
How did Hugh react?
He felt sick, uneasy. But he hid the news from Madge, trying to protect their little bubble. The papers were also full of stories about vigilante justice, lynch law in response to the robbery. The violence was escalating.
Still, they continued their honeymoon, but business called him back.
Right. Jones needed him back in New York, and then they planned a trip to Europe. His dream of seeing Paris finally came true.
But the reality didn't match the dream.
Not really. The devil notes that Paris seemed rather dirty and very small compared to Hugh's grand fantasies. Seeing the sights, the opera, it all felt surprisingly ordinary. Not the fairy tale he'd built up in his head.
Meanwhile, the business keeps growing.
Absolutely. Huge demand. They renamed the company General Automatic Weapon Company, even opened factories in Belgium.
And then another scandal in Paris boosts sales even further.
About a year after the Marion Gray affair, this time involving a music hall singer, Mimi the Certier.
Another dramatic figure.
Known for being provocative on stage. She gets caught at a love triangle, a painter, another woman named Suzanne Ivory. Jealousy, the usual ingredients.
And she decides to use the pistol for dramatic effect.
Yeah, she planned some kind of scene at a charity bazaar. But the pistol had what the devil calls an embarrassing trait.
It went off accidentally.
Precisely. It fired prematurely, killed Suzanne Ivory and several other people at the bazaar. Mimi herself died right there, apparently from shock, a ruptured heart.
More headlines, more notoriety.
Exactly. The press loved it. And the flat black pistol became even more desirable, especially in the criminal underworld among anarchists. It was seen as this ultimate weapon, a universal trump card for settling scores, amplifying emotions.
And the devil connects all this violence and notoriety to progress.
In his twisted way, yes. He links the pistol's popularity to the start of a great epoch of wars. More conflicts, more intense fighting. He actually argues war is a moral necessity, the peak of civilization, preventing society from decaying. Peace, to him, is stagnation.
So, for the devil, a better killing tool like Hugh's pistol isn't just tech. It's helping humanity fulfill its violent destiny.
That seems to be his perspective. It's a deeply cynical view, obviously.
And then Hugh himself.
Yeah.
How is he changing through all this?
His views seem to be evolving. He starts talking about helping exceptionally talented people, feeling like society focuses too much on the lowest common denominator. He even diversifies, starts a shipping company.
And feels spiritually enriched by travel. That seems ironic.
It does. The devil notes this sense of growth Hugh feels, even as his main invention continues to fuel violence. It's a complex picture of a man seeking meaning while dealing with the consequences of his creation.
Now, while Hugh is doing all this, Madge embarks on her own kind of invention, right? Something completely different.
Worlds apart, really. Madge becomes passionate about helping the blind. She finds out about a doctor using hypnosis to treat blindness and gets completely absorbed in plans to build a clinic, an institute.
Her motivation seems purely compassionate.
Absolutely. It's about restoring sight, alleviating suffering, a really stark contrast to Hugh's invention, born from ambition and frustration, which ended up causing so much harm.
It's a powerful juxtaposition, Hugh's destructive tool versus Madge's healing mission.
Yeah.
Then the story shifts quite dramatically, doesn't it, to the narrator's encounter with the devil in the Elora caves.
Yes, a very atmospheric setting. And the devil shares some of his philosophy, let's call it.
What does he claim his role is?
He says he doesn't create evil, he just collects it. He even claims most devils are attached to humans to stop them dissolving into cosmic ether, basically annihilation.
Yeah.
He dismisses ideas of other worlds or souls moving on as dangerous fantasies.
So, a strictly materialistic viewpoint.
Very much so. He offers this strange, twisted take on Adam and Eve, the bearer of light, saying devils cling to humanity out of fear of dreadful nothingness.
And then he makes this distinction. Descendants of Adam versus descendants of animals. What's that about? It sounds allegorical.
It does. He claims Adam's descendants have souls, they can potentially separate from them, while animal descendants are completely under the devil's control. Their goal, he says, is to prevent these two groups from recognizing each other or uniting, often using ideas like equality and fraternity to keep them mixed and confused.
Why would Adam's descendants serve the others, in his view?
Because the animals can't create or manage things on their own, they need the spark of the Adam line. He describes Adam's descendants as searching for essence, not caring much for wealth, while the animal descendants are practical, materialistic, morally flexible.
So it's a kind of symbolic map of human tendencies, different motivations, different values.
Possibly. He outlines strategies too. Convince the animals that the Adams are a threat, and convince the Adams who fight evil that the evil is somehow necessary, part of a bigger plan. The ultimate fear is the Adams uniting. It's a very cynical take on societal dynamics and control.
Definitely provocative. It paints a picture of manipulation on a grand scale. Then the focus shifts again to Leslie White in Ceylon.
Right, an unusual Englishman for the time and place, interested in local culture, philosophy, yoga, not your typical colonial administrator.
He meets an Indian Tamil man who influences him.
Yes, this man talks about integrating one's life with higher spiritual aims. It sparks a real conflict in Leslie, this pull toward spiritual seeking versus his more conventional life and duties.
And the devil, or rather a devil, shows up again.
Yeah, but this time it's described as a little devil attached to Leslie. The main devil explains that practices like yoga are playing with fire, potentially detaching people from the earth, which devils don't want.
And this little devil is nice.
Seems that way. Clever, uses kindness as influence. Its main job is to keep Leslie grounded, tied to the material world.
How? Through temptation.
But really mundane temptations, mostly food, lavish meals, constantly appealing to his physical appetites. The little devil literally takes the form of tempting dishes sometimes.
Simple, but effective, perhaps. Then Leslie meets Margaret Ingleby.
Yes, there's this strong mutual attraction. They have this really intense, connected moment on a beach, like they step outside time. But the practicalities crash back in her age, his lack of money.
So the world interferes.
It does. The social norms, the practical obstacles, they pull them back. Leslie rationally decides he can't pursue it, needs to stay single and stable.
And how does the little devil react when Leslie gets lost in thought, in his spiritual side?
It gets distressed. When Leslie immerses himself in reading and thinking, detaching from the immediate physical world, the little devil literally fades or disappears for a bit. It shows how much they rely on keeping humans focused on the material.
The big devil mentions sex, too, as a tool.
Yes, but interestingly, he says they dislike romance. They prefer to manipulate through the aversion, guilt, shame, often associated with sex. Leslie is called a difficult one because he's capable of genuine romantic feeling.
So Leslie tries to get back to his spiritual path. Rice and fruit diet.
For a moment.
Yeah.
But the little devil is persistent. Social invitations, dinners, distractions. It quickly pulls him back into the swing of things. It's exhausting for the little devil, constantly tempting him with food and drink.
Leslie eventually just gives in to exhaustion.
Yeah, falls asleep, worn out by the constant pull between his aspirations and the little devil's relentless efforts. And the little devil's still there, clinging on.
The big devil almost sounds proud of their persistence, framing it as self-sacrifice.
He does. This constant vigilance, keeping humans tethered. He says people are easiest to manipulate if they either totally dismiss the devil's influence or go to extremes of denial and abstinence. Both ends of the spectrum are vulnerable. Their simple methods, he claims, have worked since Adam.
Then the devil makes a dramatic exit.
Vanishes, transforming into this huge black shadow. It leaves the narrator feeling sick, disillusioned. The magic of the Allura caves is gone for him.
And the final scene, the narrator sees a Scottish regiment.
Striking appearance, he notes, like Roman soldiers. And then he recognizes someone.
Leslie White.
Leslie White, now a lieutenant in the regiment.
And the narrator has this sudden, chilling realization.
Yes, he sees this as the devil's ultimate distraction. Taking someone like Leslie, with his spiritual inclinations, his harmful thoughts and ambitions as the devil sees them, and channeling all that energy, that potential, into military duty, into a larger conflict.
He calls it the incredible hopelessness of the situation.
The sacrifice of individual paths for this collective struggle. He worries it divides people like Leslie, prevents them from finding each other, forming any kind of chain of understanding against the banalites, the lies, the hypocrisy the devil seems to unleash.
So what's left of Leslie's yoga? his Buddhism.
The narrator wonders the same thing. He's living like a soldier now, focused on duty, discipline. A different path entirely. The ability to recognize the barbarians, internal or external, seems lost.
And the devil's final line.
The stake is on nobility. Which sounds triumphant, almost, like even noble impulses, duty, sacrifice, service can be twisted, used to divert people from deeper understanding, serving the devil's ends.
Wow. So wrapping this up, Hugh's invention, born from personal ambition, spirals completely out of control, becomes this global tool of violence, maybe even fuels wars.
Yeah, the consequences were massive and totally unforeseen by him initially. And the Devil's Commentary gives this really cynical view of human motivation, how easily we're distracted by simple desires, how our own creations can run away from us.
And Leslie White's story is this tragic picture of the struggle between wanting something more, something deeper, and just getting pulled back into the everyday, or even into grand, noble-seeming distractions like war.
It really highlights those powerful forces, internal and external, that can just knock us off course.
The real aha moment here, for me at least, is just how tangled everything is. Individual choices, technology, ambition, societal forces, it all feeds into outcomes we just don't predict. Ouspensky's Devil, fictional or not, gives us a pretty unsettling mirror to hold up to ourselves.
It really does. And hopefully for the listener who asked the original question, this dive into Ouspensky offers a different, maybe more complex way to think about invention and its impact than just simple stories of progress. It certainly exposes the tangled web of consequences.
Absolutely. It leaves you thinking, doesn't it, about the inventions in our own life, not just physical things, but ideas, choices, projects. What ripples might they be sending out? What subtle currents might be guiding them or guiding us? And that final question hangs there. What's your personal stake on nobility? What are you betting on?